Hey, welcome back to She Knows SEO. I'm your host, Nina Clapperton, and today I'll be speaking with Emma of InWanderment.com. Emma is one half of the duo that runs the site. She runs the site with her partner, Stefan, and it is a travel photography website with amazing photos. Like, all my photos are taken on a really bad old iPhone and they're all crooked, so I am in constant awe of the beautiful shots that they take. Emma and her partner run this website, and they are currently on a full-time travel expedition. So we talk a lot about balancing all of the work that there is to create a profitable travel blog while also enjoying your travels and not letting it run your life. We also discuss doing a content audit and really reworking the way that you think about your content and write your content. So without further ado, I'm going to let you go. That way you can dive right into the episode. See you soon. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I'm here today with Emma. Oh, wait, no, we need to stop. I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
It's not an easy one, actually. Well, Chave, but
Chave.
it's yeah. So most people try and make it sound posh, like Chave, but it's just Chave.
That's what I was doing. I was like, crap, I always forget to ask that every time. Okay, cool. Okay,
Yes.
let's start again. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
No podcaster or anything. Okay. Hey everybody, I'm here with Emma Chave. Today we're going to be talking about SEO and travel blogs. Emma is one of my SEO Roadmap students who kindly agreed to do a little interview to chat about how her blog is going and her travel blogging journey. Emma runs with her partner Stefan.
Yeah.
I needed to pronounce F's for some reason. I don't know what happened there. They run InWanderment.com, which is a lovely blog. And honestly, you guys should check it out because they take some of the prettiest pictures you've ever seen. Although they're both kind of obsessed with bugs and lizards, which I will admit I am not. So that's not my favorite part of it. I really like their site. So Emma, I'll hand it over to you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I'm Emma. I'm one half of InWanderment, and I run with my husband Stefan. And we started the blog in 2019, so quite a while ago. But I would say I'm feeling like now is just the beginning, because up until about 6 months ago, I did everything wrong. So we've got InWanderment. It's adapted, it's changed a lot over the time, and we've also do it quite a lot on social media as well. But mainly we focus on photography, so travel photography, beauty spots like waterfalls, lighthouses, beautiful mountains, that kind of thing, and share how to get there, all the details about the spot, how to take good photos, and also travel guides, so other things that you might need to know if you're visiting that particular location. So the site is very baby at the moment, but it's growing quite quickly as I build my posts back up. But yeah, it's kind of an ever evolving journey, as I'm sure you get, Nina. I keep trying to get it like, this is what it is. And I'm like, it grows.
I feel like that's the hard part, is they never really feel done. It always feels like there's something to go. And I know that you've been in the middle of like a giant content audit lately. So especially with that, it must be like renovating a house where you're kind of like living in it, but only like 3 rooms feel done at the time.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think I had to get rid of a lot of my content just because it didn't fit into the niche that we decided for the site. It was very general. And I thought that having 3 blog posts on each country was enough. So having like 5 things to do in Lisbon, I thought that was a really good post and everybody was going to read it. And only after learning have I realized nobody's ever going to see that. And there's a lot of things that I've had to change the niche, and then just start creating blog posts that actually are fitting into what we want to do now. So it does feel like we've started again, basically. But luckily we've had our site for a while, so it's got that kind of Google knows it. We've got our social media, but in terms of our niche and what we're doing, it feels like we've only just started kind of a year ago. So it's a strange place to be.
And you guys really pivoted from Instagram kind of back to SEO almost, which I think does happen fairly often. Like, it's kind of surprising. It's almost like Instagram's a path to SEO somehow.
Yeah, I think with Instagram, we started it to support the blog. That's how it began. And then I didn't know how to use Instagram at the time. I had no idea. I didn't know what a story was. I didn't know anything. And we just got sucked into it. And it grew to like 10,000 followers within, I think, about 6 months. So we grew really quickly. But it took over. So we were spending all our time on social media and not enough time on our blog. And it's only been kind of from doing some influencer work. I hate that. Like, I know some people love influencer work, but I hate it when people say, oh, you're an influencer, because I don't feel like I am. I'm like, I'm not at all. But I've done that kind of work and realized it really isn't what we love doing. And then we were kind of like, okay, so actually where this has led, all the work we've put in is not doing what it needs to do for the blog. So we've had to completely pivot. And now we're like, we'll keep Instagram. It's great to have, it's a good community, but it's not actually going to bring us the traffic we need for the blog. So we've really had to switch our energy and focus from that to SEO.
And if you don't mind sharing, did Instagram get you any traffic to the blog? Because like I've never gotten blog traffic from Instagram. So
Yeah, I'd say a very small amount. So if I look on link clicks, even at this point now, which I would say we have quite an engaged community in terms of our photography. And if I share a link for a blog post, even a photography spots, photography locations, probably get 15 link clicks or something like that from a story. And from an actual post, I don't think it's marginal whether anybody would go to your bio to click on a link, because Instagram, it's just a different beast. Everybody wants to just consume content as quickly as possible, engage with people. Nobody really wants to click off and read a blog. It's just a different kind of thing. So no, it hasn't worked for us. I know it works for some people. I think you can generate interest in a trip and maybe start to build a bit of anticipation about what's coming in the future on your blog. But for actually getting clicks, it hasn't really worked for us.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, that is something I hear a lot, which it's like a sticky platform, I guess everyone says, but
Yeah.
I always just think I'm too bad at it for anyone to ever consider clicking through regardless, because my Instagram's mostly my dog, which, I mean, he's great, but that's not.
It's perfect for Instagram though. That's what everyone wants to see.
True.
And I think
True.
short videos where you've done videos before where you're teaching people quick things, they work really well on Instagram.
Yeah. They're probably the best, that or the one time I bitched about when I was traveling across the US and I was like, what is the Midwest? Because I'm East and they're calling it the Midwest. That one did very well. Me just being like incredibly confused because I don't know geography.
Yeah. The strangest things do well on Instagram. I think I shared something about a festival. It's the Lantern Festival in Thailand, actually. Instead of sharing the normal video, I actually shared what it was like for us. And it was so dangerous. There was trees setting on fire. There was like people screaming. It was really surreal because I was like, I have never seen this on social media. Shared it, accidentally spelt the name wrong. The only video we've ever had that's gone viral. 6 million people saw it with a spelling mistake. And I'm just like, why? But yeah, I think things like that have a bit of I don't know, they haven't seen before, it catches someone's interest, do really well. But long form, I think it is harder to get people to leave the platform. They tend to maybe save it or forward it somewhere, but we know what happens with that. Yeah. Most people don't go back to it.
That's fair. That is a fair point.
Yeah.
So you talk about some stuff that you did then that like kind of didn't work with your beginning. So you're doing a content audit now. Is that what you felt has been kind of a pivot and things are doing well now? Or is there something else that you've done that like you feel like it's clicking now and things are starting to move in like a progressive fashion, I guess?
Yeah, so it's definitely the content audit, because before I did that, we didn't have any posts on page one of Google. We were getting kind of 300, 200 page views a month. That was all. And I hadn't done any SEO optimization at all. So I did, after starting your course, I did kind of rebuild the site. So I had to optimize all of the pages, which I didn't even know was a thing. So I did everything. But with the content audits, it wasn't so much as a bit of an edit and an audit. It was pretty much rewriting the posts because they were so bad. And only after learning about SEO and adding value have I realized that really I was writing the posts to get them done, to be like, I've been here, write a post about it, great, done. Not something that's actually really helpful to people. And it's a weird place to kind of admit that, because you're like, oh, I was doing it to help people, but was I? I don't think so. I think I was doing it to be like, I write as many as possible. So I've rewritten every blog post on our site bar one. So I think, and I had to cut a lot, and that's made a massive difference. So it's only been between 2 and 4 months, depending on which blog post it is, how long they've been kind of indexed on Google as the new blog post. And now nearly all of them are on page one. If they're not on page one, they're on page two. I know. I was like, it's
Fun.
working. And some of them are in like on the top spot for something that I never thought I would be in the top spot for. It's like going away for a weekend in Pembrokeshire and Wales, which so many people do. And I'm literally in spot 2 for that blog.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah,
I didn't realize for that one. Yeah.
I was really excited and I've got like snippets for some of the blogs as well, which are showing up. In the people also ask questions at the top. There's quite a few of the questions that I've put in that are showing up as well. So considering it can take up to 6 months, I'm already seeing like amazing results, and we're kind of going up from 3,000 views upwards, and it's just growing all of the time from 300. And the main thing is the content audits. And considering that I deleted 20 blog posts from my site, I'm really happy with the increase, because I definitely thought I've got rid of everything. I'm not going to grow until I write more, but actually we have. The site has taken a massive boost, which is amazing because now people are seeing our content, which is really good.
I love it. That's amazing to hear. That's so exciting, especially like, I know everyone's so doom and gloom lately. So any like good things that we can hear about SEO is
Yeah.
really exciting. And like, you guys deserve it. You guys write really, really good content. And
Oh, thank
everyone
you.
needs to check out these photos because I swear to God, like I'm going to the UK in the spring and I'm like, I think I need to go to Wales because this looks so pretty. I
Yeah.
don't know how to bring Theo, so that's the only problem. But other than that, I'm like, oh my God, this is so gorgeous.
Yeah.
But no, that's amazing. And it really is like that switch from writing, yeah, kind of to check a box to writing for someone else
Yeah.
is so huge. And I think a lot of people might not even realize that they're doing that. I love that, like the way
Yeah.
you said that, because it's a huge mindset shift. And I think that it also honestly makes writing a bit easier to some extent, because then you have
Mm.
something you're focused on where it's like, okay, if you're
Yeah.
just putting this into the ether, it's kind of whatever.
Yeah.
And then like,
Yeah.
yeah, who's going to see it? I have no idea. But if you have an idea of the person, if you have an idea of who you're helping, and if, yeah, the content is semi-related, I think that's great, because then you are able to speed things up for yourself to some extent and also just make it like less of a hassle to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think having someone in mind that you're writing for is really helpful, and just understanding what they would want to know. I'm really into the detail of things, so that's the thing that I have to be mindful of, just to not put too much detail in, because not everybody wants to know that. But at the same time, I want people to come to our guides or blogs and not leave having to Google something that we haven't answered. So I think that's helpful. Whereas before, I mean, I don't know why I thought 5 things in Lisbon was ever going to be enough for anyone. And it's just like a paragraph on each thing. And also I used to write long stories about my holidays, like 10 pages long of my experience, because I do like creative writing. But obviously that's not helping anyone. So I think that's a big thing. It's not just learning SEO, but it's also learning that you're writing to help people. If people generally want to read a travel story, they'll buy a book. You know, they're not gonna go on your site. They want help. So that was another big mindset shift for me. I thought I was being original, and I thought this is going to be like so different to what everyone's doing. But I realized everybody thinks that,
Yeah.
and that's not true.
No, but I think that's also like kind of coming from Instagram, where it is about you. Like you are kind of, yeah, you're the whole point of the account in most of the cases. And like to my understanding, they have content pillars and stuff. I don't know. I don't understand social media, but like you have to be at the forefront there, where I find with a blog, you honestly kind of are the passenger. Like you are really letting the
Yeah,
audience drive it forward. And it's not just, I don't know. I feel like with a lot of other things, it does feel like there's a tick box of like pretty picture, done. Great video,
yeah,
done. Like with a blog, there's so many little elements you have to kind of throw in together, but ultimately the main thing is the audience. And I love that people are learning that more and more, because it is hard when you go to a site and you're like, okay, 5 things to do in Toronto from someone who like probably visited here, but like maybe only did downtown. And
yeah,
tells me nothing about like, it's like, oh, the CN Tower exists. And I'm like, okay, now what?
yeah,
But we've all been there. Like definitely my first posts were rough. They were so bad. I wrote one about a Moroccan hammam and like getting scrubbed within an inch of my life wearing paper underwear. And I was like, why would you put that on the internet as the first blog post?
Yeah.
But no wonder my sister was writing me going like, dude, have some things are secrets. Some things do not need to
Yeah.
be shared. Like definitely a problem I've not fixed, to be honest. But like
I've been there as well. Like, I think I look back at some of my posts and I'd be surprised if people didn't think I was a borderline alcoholic because I just talked about wine all the time. And actually, I mean, we don't drink anymore anyway. Since we started going out hiking a lot, I was like, this doesn't really fit in with my life. And when I went back, I was like, why do I keep talking about wine? Like, I mean, I did like wine, but not to that extent, you know? And I'm like, it's crazy the things you do when you start out and you maybe think you're being authentic and being yourself. And obviously that is important. But at the same time, I think there's things that aren't helpful and you just don't need to put out there. And it's been really reassuring to like meet everyone in the group and realize that this is a very common thing. It's not, I don't have to cringe on my own, you know, like I look back on stuff and everybody's done it and been like, why?
That's something I saw recently. There's like a thing going around on TikTok where it was like, we all have to start from cringe. Like we can't, and anyone recording their first YouTube video, anyone like posting their first Instagram, like we all start from of this is cringy and weird and kind of like dancing in your parents' basement and making all their friends watch it at dinner or something. Like it always has that like, but then once it takes off, then you're like, ah, okay, that's why I was doing this. So I do like I love talking to other bloggers because you feel like we've all been there. We can all get through this part of it. Can you not be the main attention for 1 minute? Sorry, Theo's getting antsy. Yeah, but I wanted to ask as well with the content audit, because that's a lot of work. How much time are you spending on your blog kind of per week, per month at this point?
So right now it is extremely inconsistent. So it's anywhere from between 5 and 30 hours, depending on traveling. So we're traveling full time at the moment. And I genuinely thought that when we left the UK, we'd have so much time and it'd be so much easier. And I didn't realize it's actually much harder because we have no routine. We're constantly planning for the next destination and there's no break in between. So it's been really difficult to be consistent. So whilst we've been in one spot, I've probably been working like 30 hours a week. That's just on the blog. And then other things, I'm always on my phone, like doing other things for the blog, but I never count that as work. But Stefan's like, you're still working. I'm like, my laptop's off. But it's still, so probably like 40 hours. But when we're moving again and we're traveling, it gets a lot more tricky. So it's kind of juggling between going out, getting content, taking photographs, planning the location to make sure we're there at the right time for the photographs, not dying in the process of like sleep deprivation and writing content and not burning out. So it's really hard and we're still trying to find that balance. We're aiming to try and do at least 5 hours each a week, which might account, we're hoping that that will mean we can publish 2 blog posts a month consistently, maybe more. So that's what we're aiming for. I've now got Stefan fully on board because he was focusing a lot on YouTube. And whilst we love YouTube, it just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of hours. And we've realized until we grow the blog to like a decent number, we just need to focus on one thing. So now I've got Stefan on board. He's doing like photography tips blogs. So he's doing more of the technical stuff that I don't really completely understand. My camera is always on auto, whereas he knows a lot more about photography than me. And then I'm doing the guides. So we're going to be aiming for kind of 10 hours a week between us, but ideally more. That's like a minimum. And we're also actually planning to go back to the UK in October, where I'll be working on the blog full time for about 6 months. And that's the plan at that point, to really catch up on everything. And that's probably going to be where I'm doing like, I don't know, 40 hours a week or something, just to really be consistent with it. But I think one thing I have realized since starting the content audits is just do what you can when you can if you don't have routine. Because for me, I like to have everything in a clean box. Like, this is when I'm working, this is on a Tuesday. You can't do that all the time. Even for people that aren't traveling full time, life is hectic. And I think just getting rid of that mindset and being like, okay, I have a spare few hours. Do I feel okay? I feel okay. Right. Just do something and just start, because I think that's been one of my biggest battles of like procrastination and being like, I don't have enough time to do enough of it right now, so I'm not going to do anything. Whereas just starting and catching those few hours in between what you're doing, it adds up to massive change over time. I genuinely didn't think I'd have the content audits done by January. I thought it would be like July.
Oh, that's amazing. You're 6 months ahead of schedule. Like that's, I don't know,
Yeah.
girl math. You've earned 6 months of freedom or something. I don't know. Girl math is hilarious to me because of that. I think
Yeah.
that's such an important lesson because you're so right. That's something I struggle with too, is like I always want to finish the thing in the time slot. So I'm like, hey, if I'm
Yeah.
here, the whole thing needs to be done. I'm very bad about like walking away from something when it's part way
Me
done.
too.
It's why I converted the whole SEO roadmap into a podcast in about 4 hours when I was supposed to do it over the course of at least 4 days. But like that is something, especially like with something as big as a content audit, there's so many steps that have to be done. And it can feel weird to like walk away part way. But I think that's such a good like learning opportunity that you got and like that you have figured out kind of by force, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
and it is important too. I think this is something travel bloggers struggle with as well, is when you're traveling, it's nice to just travel for a minute. Like find the minutes you can, obviously, to do some work. And if you're traveling full time, you have to do some work as well.
Yeah.
Like I think it is hard to balance the am I working right now? Am I traveling right now? Especially if this is like a side hustle or it's something that you're doing full time, but you don't, yeah, like right now I'm full time, but I'm at home at a desk. So it does have that routine, like you mentioned. When I was doing
Yeah.
a 6 month road trip across the US, I was the same. I'm like, I'm gonna have so much time to write blog posts. I'm gonna get everything done. But I'm also gonna do everything. And you forget that you're a human being that like only has
Yeah.
so much energy, who needs to sleep. You also forget the transit involved, and you're like, that's gonna break me into like 1,000 pieces. So I think like what you're saying
Yeah.
is so it's resonating with me so much because I'm like, yep, that was genuinely me, even just last year, trying to like scrape together the energy to like order in Pizza Hut or something because I couldn't even
Yeah.
do anything else after the day.
Yeah. And it becomes sometimes overwhelming then, because you're like, why do I not have the energy and the time to do this? Because on paper, it looks like I have all the time in the world. But when you take into account that you are also making notes for every place you go, you're planning your next location, like you said, when you're going to the airport, you're traveling to your next place. I'm like, well, I'll just do a bit, I'll open my laptop at the airport. I've realized that that does not always work. There's no Wi-Fi, or you can't connect, or there's nowhere to sit, or you're distracted. And I get very easily distracted. So I can't have the telly on if I'm working or anything like this. So it does pose its own challenges. Obviously, we're loving being able to do it. But I think that for us, we want this to be our business, and we want this to be a full-time thing. It's something I love. Stefan really enjoys writing the photography tips, and we see a lot of potential in it. So we know that for now we're having to fit things in. But I think in the future, we will be spending extended time in the UK at home working, then traveling, then working, just so we can start to actually be a bit more consistent, because it's very frustrating that I don't have more brain energy. Like I don't know if you're the same, but I get so cross. I'm like, just do it. I'm like, okay, I have a foggy brain and I feel overwhelmed. So this is where I have to stop, but I don't want to stop because I love what I'm doing. But
That's one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur, where there's not, first of all, like it's something that you love, and that makes it so much harder to walk away from it, even for like
yeah,
the minute, even for an hour break. Like I do find it very, very challenging to like close a laptop for a minute. And
me
I'm the same
too.
way. I had to delete all the social media apps off my phone. I don't have email on my phone. I have like one crossword puzzle game on my phone right now and like WhatsApp. That's all I have, because I'm like, if I have those, then I'm walking my dog and I'm trying to like de-stress,
Yeah,
do a podcast, but Facebook is right there. I could just like I'm the same way. And like it's challenging when you love it, when you don't have a boss who's like, okay, here are your hours. It's almost good
yeah,
to have a boss that you kind of hate at a job you kind of hate. Like
yeah,
back when I worked at the law firm, I had a lovely boss, but I did not like law. And so it was very easy to be like, oh, it's 4:30. That's close enough to 5. Close the laptop.
yeah,
Done. Like, whereas for me, I'm like, number one, if I don't do it, no one's doing it. But number two, I'm like,
yeah.
but it's so fun. I could just do another half hour. And then it's like 8 p.m. and I'm like, oh, right, there's dinner. That's a thing. Like I'm very,
Yeah.
I have coworker Theo who will not let me miss a meal, not for my benefit, for his benefit. So
Yeah.
like I think that that is helpful to realize the boundaries you need to set though, because it took me a number of years to figure it out. And I was
Mm,
very all or nothing with it for far too long, or very like, yeah, mad at myself when I couldn't miraculously write 400
yeah.
posts in a day. And it's like, no, of course you can't. You're one lady. You're not AI. Like, and
Yeah.
you could with AI, they're not going to be good because that's 400 in a day. So I think
Yeah.
really good realization to have though. And like you guys are honestly like considering how much you've been able to do, I've been surprised at how much you guys have been able to create while traveling because you guys are in these amazing places. It looks like you're still having like the most ultimate experiences and finding that time. I find people often just like completely put the blog aside for a while, which like no shade to
Mm.
anybody does.
Yeah, of course.
But like, and almost honestly, I almost envy those people because I am incapable at this point of like putting it
Me
aside.
too.
I'm obsessed with it to a ridiculous degree. And I think part of
Yeah.
those come from like if you start working on it where it's an evenings and weekends thing, you don't know what to do with your evenings and weekends anymore. You're like, oh no, like this was the thing. Now what? Like now I've got to watch TV or find a hobby. Like, how do I do that? That's work.
I'm so relating to everything you're saying
Yeah.
because I'm exactly the same. And I think it's one thing I've learned about social media is it's easy to think that everybody is like on an amazing trip, working really well, just machine producing blogs, they're hitting all of the, the buttons and they're doing everything. But behind the scenes, I think more people are struggling to find that balance than you realize. And they think they're not doing enough. I think so many people feel like they're not doing enough. And I've not actually met one person that's like, I'm pretty happy with what I've done. Actually, my husband is very much like that. And he's quite a good teacher to have around me, but I just don't get it. I'm like, how? And I think that's really important to realize that probably everybody, every entrepreneur struggles with that because there's no work time and off time unless you make those boundaries yourself and you're very strict about it. It's really hard. And I'm so bad at it. I have no boundaries between working and my own time. And I don't know what to do, like you said. I find blogging so much more exciting than any Netflix program I can find. And I have got a colouring book that I bought here because I was like, I'll try and do something, And I think I've coloured in 4 pictures, but I'd rather do something to do with the blog. So it is hard because you're excited about it, you're passionate about it, and it's the thing that you really want to put time into. But I think you do have to try and step away sometimes. But I am not the person to talk about that because I'm terrible at it. I have not learned that yet.
But I think that's the thing is it's always like a growth thing. And I go through like seasons where I'm better at it, seasons where I'm worse at it. Like winter, I'm
Yeah.
never good about like, because I get intense seasonal depression and I just get like, it's dark and it's cold and I'm usually in Canada. I don't want to be outside. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
do something. I don't want to go somewhere. So usually it is like you end up working more hours in the blog because you're like, well, in summer, I want to be outside more. So I think
Yeah.
that's also something to remember is like I like how you're talking about, okay, for this much time, we'll like really focus on it when we're in the UK. And then outside of the UK, you can kind of play around with it. There's a woman on Instagram who I wish I could remember, Mallory, I think Rowan or something on Instagram,
Mhm.
who talks about like personal finance stuff and running it, being an entrepreneur. And one of the things that she posted about like beginning or end of 2023, beginning of 2024 was like her year schedule. And I thought that was so fascinating because she's like, okay, winter, I'm going to have less social time. Like that's my time to kind of step away from it because this is like my season of introvert stuff because of seasonal
Mm,
disorder. And in summer, I'm going to do more social opportunities, but I'm going to only work this many days a week because of like summer vacations or just like wanting to enjoy
interesting.
the sun. And I thought that was a really cool way to look at it is like rather than being,
Yeah.
okay, you know what? Every week for the whole year, I'm going to do exactly this because that's not going to happen. Like we have things that happen, we have things that change. Being able to be
Yeah.
like, hey, you know what? Like even she was talking about like her energy levels are just higher in some months, lower in others. And I
Yeah.
totally relate to that. So being able to plan that way, I wish I was like self-aware enough to plan it. Like I don't notice it until it happens. But I think the idea of planning is so cool because then yeah, you're not mad at yourself when it happens. Like my therapist was telling me like between 2 and 3, my brain just shuts down. Like I cannot do stuff. So she was like, you know what? That's your break hour. Now you are not allowed to work during that hour. You have to take a nap, go for a walk, stare at the wall. I don't care, but like you cannot work during that hour. And that was really nice to be like, she's like, it's not you're lazy and you can't function or you're too like out of energy. That's just not a Nina hour. That's going to be a pause hour, and that's okay. And I think that was really cool to realize. And I think a lot of people too, like finding your rhythms and what works for you is so important because
Yeah.
otherwise we just get mad at ourselves and that's not helpful.
Yeah, I think and I think it changes all the time as well. So what works for you in one environment just doesn't work in another. So I can work really well when I'm at home and I go out for my morning walk, I've done my exercise, and then I sit down and I'm always really pumped in the morning. I literally wake up, I think, full of adrenaline, which is not great. But I just wake up and I'm like, I'm ready and I'm excited and I'm going to do everything. But when I'm traveling, often we're out doing like photo shoots in the morning and we're getting up at like 4 a.m., 3 a.m. I need my sleep. So when I get back, I am so tired. I then need a nap. Then maybe later on, I'm feeling groggy. So then I'm like, well, actually, when we're going out doing a photo shoot, I don't have the brain capacity to do that.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing that I've learned, and I guess it applies to just normal life for a lot of people, especially if they've got a family and kids and that kind of thing as well, which I don't know how mothers
I have
cope.
no
Hats off
idea.
to mothers because I find it hard enough looking after myself, quite
Yeah.
honestly. But you have to, I think you just have to be adaptable. And that's probably a hard lesson for me because I don't deal well with ambiguity. I like to know what's what and what I can do when I can do it. But it's not possible, I think, with life. You can have an idea in your mind of like, this is what I would like to do. This is what I'm going to try. But then you have to be ready to be like, okay, that's enough. I'm not feeling great today. I'm not feeling the same as I did yesterday because especially being women, my hormones are like the worst. I can have a week of being no energy at all, no motivation. And then the next week, I am literally like a machine. And
Yeah.
then the next week, I'm burnt out. And I'm like, is this the hormones or is this the work? I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So I think just listening to how you're feeling and just being like, okay, I'm not going to be able to do the same thing all the time. I keep telling myself I'm not a machine. It's not going in yet, but you know that thing? I'm not a machine, I'm a human.
Yeah.
And just try and do what I can when I can, do more when I feel up for it. And if I don't, just try and be strict and do something else.
Yeah.
But it is hard. Like when you're passionate about something and you love it, it's super hard to just step away. But I think a book I read years ago, so good, it's called Compound Effect. I don't know if you've read it, but it's basically just about all the little tiny changes that you make or you do, even if they seem so small in that day, you think, what's the point? It's not a big deal. But if you did just like half an hour a day for 6 months and you added that up to what that would amount to and the progress that you might make on your blog or anything else, it makes a huge difference. And that's really helped me with traveling. Like when I'm traveling quick, I'm kind of like, I can only do an hour. But then I thought, well, if I do an hour a day, that's 5 hours a week. That's like 20 or 25 hours a month. That means I'm producing 2 blogs and I'm doing social media. So that initial thought of what's the point, it's not enough, adds up to 2 blogs a month or nothing if I don't do it. So that really helped me. I still do struggle with the whole I'm not doing enough thing, but
Yeah.
I do something and it does make changes. I think with the content audit as well, people kind of they're like, oh my God, you've done amazing. And when I post on Instagram about the struggle, because I've started sharing a lot and saying, we're finding it really hard. And people are really relating to it. They're like, oh my God, I can't cope. I'm traveling full time. I'm so glad it's not just us.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing to remember, because a lot of the content audits I was doing in bed with the flu. Like I was just sat in bed with my mouse and my laptop. So it's not perfect. I don't think anybody's journey is perfect, but you just do what you can when you can. And it doesn't matter if you're doing the right things, then it amounts to progress. But that's something I've learned from you and the course, that you have to do the right things. There's no point in just doing everything else that doesn't move the needle, which I'm so bad for. Changing fonts, changing color. I'm like, Stefan said, that's not going to bring anyone to our website though, Emma. I'm like, yes, but it's bugging me.
Which is so normal. I think so many of us, like, yeah, we nitpick on those little things. And it's like a
Yeah.
self-sabotage, procrastinating thing where you're like, oh, but like that, it's not like hard for my brain to do. I can focus on that part of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's why like Pinterest is hard for me because I will spend, even though I'm like, I have a template, I do not need a new font for the template. I'm like, but what if they added a new font? What if I have magically forgotten the
Yeah.
holy grail of fonts and I should test every single one and then lose track of the original? Like, it's terrible, but it's so common. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that, because honestly, I think a lot of people do feel that way. Now I'm going to shamelessly ask for some, like, a kind of public testimonial, good or bad. Please share your actual experience. But how do you feel about the roadmap, and anything you'd say to anybody who is considering joining it? And again, you are allowed to say anything good or bad. I'm not going to. Okay, can you not? This is about you, Theo.
He loves the roadmap. He's just letting you know he loves it. So we often say it's like the best thing we've ever spent money on, and we wish we'd found it at the beginning of our blogging journey. But and that there actually isn't anything bad to say. If there was, I would be honest about it. For me, it's been a complete game changer, because when I found you, I always say when I found Nina, I found, like, I did the I came onto a group and I learned a lot that way. And I was kind of contemplating whether to get the course, because, like, I'm traveling and I don't know if I have time to do it. If I hadn't done it, nothing would have changed. So I had no idea about SEO. I had no idea about how to even set up a website. I had no idea about speed, about using different fonts, just anything. So from a complete beginner's mindset, I joined the roadmap. And I think a lot of people, when I've spoken to them, they're like, oh, is it quite advanced, or is it not advanced enough? And I would say no to both of those things. So I always say it's perfect for everyone. And I genuinely say this is all you'll ever need. Because for me, where I am now, it's helped me to completely build my site. There's, like, step by step for everything, which for me, getting overwhelmed and not dealing with ambiguity is great, because I'm like, I literally pause the video and I'm like, okay, do this. Okay, do this. And it's super helpful. And without that, I am not technical. There is no way I could have rebuilt my site. No, I had no idea. So to do that, learn how to use plugins, learn how to manage my website, all of these things I've learned from the course. And that's not necessarily even the main bit of SEO. So I got so much from it, even in the beginning. And then learning SEO, definitely a learning curve, but I love that in the videos you're like, it is overwhelming. So it's going to take some time. And it's just nice to know that when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, but Nina said it's overwhelming, so it's fine. So it's been a complete game changer. I honestly knew nothing before I joined the course, and there's still so much that I haven't done yet, because I'm kind of not quite there yet in the journey. So things like focusing more on affiliates, focusing more on email marketing, all that kind of thing. We have a list, but it's not something I'm focusing on right now, because I always listen to you that you're like, do the thing that moves the needle, which for me is writing content right now. But there's so much that's going to help me in the future as well, that I don't feel I'd ever need to go somewhere else to look for different resources. But the other thing that I think is really unique is having the group, having a Facebook group, that when I'm doing something in the course and I get a bit stuck, like, my brain works in weird ways. So I can read something and my brain processes it in a different way to what it's meant to be. So then I confuse myself and I'm like, I don't know if I get this. But just having the support group, and I've made some really good friends in there that I'm now friends with on Instagram, and just being able to ask the question, like, do you mean this, or what's this, or how do I do it? It's like having your own personal support all the time. And that for me has been massive. I mean, I would say the course is incredible, but having that support group is huge as well. That I'm never stuck thinking I don't understand. I can always go and ask. So I'm probably the biggest fan of the roadmap course, because it has literally changed everything. And now, for the first time, I actually feel confident that even with all, like, the doom and gloom with Google updates, I genuinely believe that with time and work, we can make this a full-time business. There aren't any doubts in our minds about it, which is a really nice place to be, because now we're like, we know what we have to do. We just have to do it.
Yeah, I love that. And that's really, like, and like you said, like, you haven't gone through the whole thing yet. You're not meant to go through the whole thing immediately.
Yeah.
Because you would just spend those 4 months just watching videos. And that's not the point. It's
Yeah.
meant to be like that, like, your kind of one and done situation where you can go through it over the course of a year or two and things keep getting updated. So it's also good to, like, not yeah, not binge everything and then not do it, because then you'll have to go watch it
Yeah.
later when it's new. So I think that's great. And you guys have been like, I'm so impressed with your progress because like you've been pushing through. I love when people ask questions, and you guys ask tons of questions and like in a great way, honestly, because like I want people to get the clarification. I want people to know. And so many of your questions, people will be like, yeah, I want to know that too. And I think that's the important
Yeah.
part of group learning is that everyone has questions or needs clarification. Not everyone will ask. So if someone else can, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
again, getting to see that like, yeah, you're not alone in what's happening with it. I didn't realize people were like joining and making friends outside the group too. I love that. That's so exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really nice. There's a couple of people that I've connected with on Instagram. There's a group of girls from your group that have set up like a Facebook chat as well.
Saw that one.
So yeah, so everybody's kind of like just asking other questions in there that maybe like smaller questions that are more relevant to each other's blogs or whatever, or getting somebody to read over a new blog post or something. So it's really nice because it's not just the course that we've got this community of people where all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's other people doing what we're doing that can actually help. And I'm learning so much, not just from the course, but also from other people as well, which is amazing because I think starting out on your own and not knowing what you're doing and having no one to talk to, it's kind of rough. I think you do need to have that kind of community and guidance. Otherwise, it just felt impossible for me. I think I wouldn't have been able to do it.
No, and I fully agree. I mean, that's one of the biggest things for me is like community over competition. And I love getting to see people
Yeah.
and like, because it is, if you're like, a lot of us blog alone in our bed or something, and that gets to be a lot. And especially if like your family and friends aren't bloggers, they don't know what it means when you get #1 ranked.
Yeah.
Celebrate. They don't know what it means when you want to like cry over Google doing something weird. Like, it's very nice to have people who can commiserate and celebrate with you at the same time whenever you need to. And yeah,
Yeah.
I love hearing that. And thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for coming on and joining me today. Where can people find you, Emma?
So we're mainly on Instagram, in Wonderment. Everything is in Wonderment across social media. Our website is inwonderment.com. Wonderment is WAN. So it's kind of a play on words with wonder and wondering, which well, it's work, but it's confusing when you're trying to spell it to someone. They're kind of
Yeah.
like, which way do you spell it? So yeah, on our website, we're going to be having loads more kind of photography tips guides, which aren't just for photographers. They're for anybody that likes to take nice photos. So there'll be tips on mobile photography as well. I'm not technical, so I always read through Stefan's blogs. I'm like, I don't understand this, so other people won't understand this. So there'll be a lot of stuff on there just to help you get nice photos, whether you want to be a photographer, whether you are a photographer, or whether you just going on holiday. Lots of destination guides as well. And then we'll be sharing more kind of about our blogging journey and also our travels on Instagram and Facebook as well.
And you have a special freebie for people, if I remember correctly.
Yes, we do. So we have created kind of a free photography location tips document. So one of the things that we really struggled with, and we still struggle with, to be honest, is when you're planning out somewhere to go to take beautiful photos, you don't know how to get there. What will the sunlight be like? What will the weather be like? What's the best time to go? What do I need to do before I go and plan this place to get a good photograph? And that's been really hard for us. So we created a document which has 8 tips, quite detailed information, just to basically give you like a step-by-step guide on what you need to look up, what you need to know, what you need to plan before you go to the place, take the photos. So it's been really helpful for us. We wish somebody had told us at the beginning all of these things, because the amount of times we've just rocked up and been like, this is not working. Like, our photos do not look like the pictures we wanted them to look like. So yeah, if we're sharing that on our website. So I think you're going to be sharing the link as well. And that'll get sent straight through via email. And hopefully we're hoping it'll help people get out and take more photographs.
Yes, so we'll link that in the description of this video so y'all can find it. It is InWanderment, just in case anybody of any of my like North American friends struggle with an accent. Sometimes people do, so I want to make it very clear. It's Wanderment, play on wonder, but again, it will be linked super easily for y'all to find it. It's a lovely website, lovely photos, and lovely people. And thank you so much, Emma, for joining me. And for everyone to check this out, thank you for coming, and we will have more students back soon to share their blogging journeys and talk a little bit about the course people had questions about. Okay, bye everybody. Thank you, Emma.
Bye.